Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Talks with Taeler Hendrix. I have a returning guest with me here today. He is one of your favorite football players to come out of Utah State, former Super Bowl champion, charity advocate, host of Turbo Talk. Please join me in welcoming Robert Turbin. How are you doing, man? It's been a while.
Yeah, no, I'm doing good. I appreciate your flexibility. I actually just finished doing another show, so
Cool.
went a little bit long, but I'm doing great. It seems like things are starting to get better around our nation or whatever, right? Everybody's figuring things out, so can't complain too much.
Oh, that's good. Well, I was very excited to be able to sit down and talk with you, especially since the recent news of The Rock and his partners purchasing the XFL. What are your thoughts and opinions on that? So basically the rundown, in case you're not aware, is that he purchased it with his partners for $15 million just days before it was going to go into bankruptcy court. There's a lot of mystique going on about what they're going to do, how they're going to rebrand it, and COVID-19 protocols in place and everything like that. So with more than 35 players getting signed to the NFL out of the XFL, how do you feel about it being purchased so it can stay running?
I think it's great. I mean, obviously, The Rock has shown to be a pretty great businessman. Outside of, obviously his other talents, using his WWE platform to become an actor and everything like that. And he, a very likable person. I don't think there's anybody who's not a fan of The Rock, including myself. Him purchasing it, clearly to me shows that he believes in it. Where there's a lot of question marks in a league like that, whether or not it's going to work, and there were a lot of question marks going into it, especially after the AFL, I believe that's what it was, was unsuccessful, ended up, having to stop their league. And so the fact that he bought it shows that, he believes in it, and really it did have success. I mean, until COVID and everything like that happened, it was doing great. Like you said, 35 players got signed to the NFL from it. It does provide opportunity for guys who perhaps, think about how valuable the XFL would be right now for guys who've been undrafted, late round picks that are getting cut, right? They have no opportunity, no OTAs, no anything like that because of COVID. They have no opportunity to showcase their skills. What a great, advocate the XFL would have been, in a moment like this. And so, a guy like The Rock purchasing it, I think it's great. I think it shows promise for the league, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the future.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely spot on. When I wrote an article about this, I thought it would be a great sort of developmental system for the NFL. I mean, it's already pretty much done that with more than 35 players getting signed after only playing 5 weeks. 5 weeks in the XFL before, COVID shutdowns and everything like that. And I think it's a steal. He only paid 15, well, not only, but he paid 15 million, whereas Vince McMahon is estimated to have invested roughly 500 million. So I think it's a pretty good deal. I know last time you spoke on the Talks with Taeler Hendrix podcast, you went into you were really candid, and you went into such depth about what the process was like for you when you were released from a team, you had to come back from injury, and you basically described it as you wanted to be a person that exemplified what it felt like to go from where you came from, make it to the top, fall all the way down, and get back up again. And you talked about going to teams and doing workouts with them even though you weren't on the team, and going for tryouts and talking with agents and stuff. For you personally, with all of your experience, do you think the XFL would have been something that you would have looked into at that time had it been around?
I did look into it. It was around early. The XFL, they're really focused on, like, some of the younger players. Like, they had some vets, in there, but really wanted to give younger guys an opportunity who have been in the league, who either are rookies or been in the league, 2, 3, or 4 years, and perhaps have gotten cut. Maybe they got an injury or something like that, and there's a lack of opportunity there. I think that at that time, at least, they were focused on that. Now, The Rock may come in and do some different things, may give more veterans an opportunity to be a part of the league and showcase the fact that they can still play. But at that time, I think they were focused on young guys. But I did consider the XFL. I was open to playing in the XFL. It didn't end up transpiring, but that's actually a good thing because, I ended up going to Seattle at the end of the season there. So
That's right. For you, with all of your experience in playing and you still being in contact with a lot of players and your friends, what kind of COVID and post-COVID sort of precautions would you as a player want to see happen so you can protect yourself, the other players, and everyone's families as well as the fans?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is you got to start with the tests. If you have tests available, whether it's every day or every other day, or even every 3 days, I think if you go past 3 days, maybe that's a little bit too long. Then you have a good indication that you guys are staying safe, and staying away from the COVID virus. And so if you have that available, I think players, at least for me, can have some settle into the fact that, okay, hey, we're gonna know if there's a problem, if somebody has it, we're gonna know, and we're gonna be able to quarantine that person ahead of time before it has an opportunity to spread. That's the first thing, having tests. And then, the other thing is just, obviously, like, you got to change up the rules a little bit. You got to be more strict on where you're going, who's coming in, from a family standpoint, from a friend standpoint. Obviously, like, being in the hotel, perhaps you can't do those family visits like guys would normally do in the past, day before the game, night before the game, and stuff like that. Those things are going to have to kind of be cut off. And listen, obviously, it sucks, but it's one of those things that you have to do in order to keep everybody safe. And if you want to play, that's a sacrifice you're going to have to make. So, I think the first thing is test. And then obviously the second thing for me would be just, adjusting those rules, making them a little bit more stringent so you're not in contact with really too much outside people, whether it be family, friends, or even just fans, your normal people out there. So those really the only two things that I can really think of and go to as a player where I feel safe and okay to go ahead and play during the season.
Absolutely. I think that's very smart. Rapid testing, which is kind of what they're doing in wrestling right now, and as well as the limiting your possibility of exposure as well, which is also very smart. It's a very like weird new norm.
It really is. It really is. But yeah, some people are still like out and about and doing stuff, and they're going to eat and stuff like that. And I'm not totally against that. Just make sure, like, hey, listen, as long as you're wearing your mask and everything like that. I know there's some